Sometimes in coach training, it's almost like we are trained to pretend there's this fantasy world where we come into a coaching conversation and the client is always ready. They're always focused. They know exactly what they want to talk about and they're eager to talk about it. That's not the real world usually. Many times a client comes into a coaching conversation, they don't have a topic, and they certainly don't have like a focused sort of place to drill in on a topic, even if they do have a topic. And so it behooves us as coaches to be ready for clients who aren't ready. And so let's talk about four tools actually that can help your clients find focus. So by the way, these are four that I use. I happen to coach within a leadership context, so they're going to have a little bit more of a leadership flavor. That's okay. You can find your own tools. The main thing is don't be afraid to find tools and use them to help your clients find focus when they don't otherwise have it. So one tool I use is called the influence map. I made this up and it's very simple. It's basically two concentric circles and the outside circle is sort of divided in a half. Hopefully my verbal explanation is at least as good as the image that is now on your video screen. So I have clients think about who they influence, not who's influencing them, but who they are influencing. And so in the inner circle, those are people they have a lot of influence with, whether they're having influence in their personal life or in their professional life. In the outer circle, the top half is for the professional influence and the bottom half is for the personal influence. And I just give them that as a sheet, and they just write down as many names as they can think of, people they have influence with. And the closer to the inside circle, the more influence. The closer to the edge of the outer ring of the circle, the less influence. And then I'll usually ask them to write a few names outside of the circles. And these are people that they know and they would like to have influence with, but they really don't. And so once they have that influence map, I ask them to circle somebody that they want to make an investment in. And they could be anywhere on the map, but it's somebody they want to have an investment in. And we are off to the races. We now have a coachable topic. A second tool, many of you are familiar with this, is the Wheel of Life. I'm not going to go deep into this because we cover it so much in our training and there's so many resources and other places on the web. But the Wheel of Life, easy way to help a client find focus. By the way, you don't want to use the Wheel of Life, every coaching session or every other coaching session. But what I found is if I pull that out every, 4 to 6 months and say, hey, let's take another look at your life, the clients are going to find value from that. If you're not familiar with the Wheel of Life, just very quickly, it's a circle. I love circles. It's divided into 8 sort of slices, if you think of slices of a pizza or slices of a pie. And each of the 8 is categorized with one aspect of life. So career, finances, family, friends, spiritual life, those sorts of things. And you're asking the client to rate their level of satisfaction. That's a key thing, level of satisfaction, somewhere on a scale of 1 to 10. And so they put a little line kind of representing where they are in their level of satisfaction. Of course, the 1 is close to the center of the circle. The 10 is the outer ring of the circle. And so for each of those slices of the pizza pie, they are kind of putting a line. And then we just kind of step back and we say, so which of those would you like more satisfaction? Doesn't have to be the lowest, doesn't have to be the highest, but it's a great conversation starter. It's a great way. You're basically asking them to pick one of 8 topics to be coached on, but it's a more indirect way of getting at that. So the Wheel of Life, great tool. Again, a lot of people use it. A lot of people probably use it more effectively than I do, but it's a great way to find focus. A third tool that you can use to find focus, again, something I just came up with, very, very simple. And I tend to use this early in a coaching relationship, but you could use it later as well if a client doesn't have focus. It's called the Things That Need to Change worksheet. And honestly, it's about as simple as you get. It's 2 columns, things that need to change in me and things that need to change in my world. And I simply am asking the client to create 2 lists of things that need to change. By the way, this also makes a great homework assignment, potentially after your first coaching session. They come up with this list, and I ask them to say at least 3 things in each of the columns, but they can list up to 10. So these things that need to change in me, things that need to change in my world. And then, of course, you can imagine you're asking the client to pick one of those that they would like to see some change in, and you've got to focus. You're ready to be coaching, using the GROW model or the hourglass model or whatever approach you use. 4th tool to find focus. This one's a little more maybe not complicated, but elaborate. And so it comes from the psychologist Scott Barry Kaufman, who reimagined Maslow's hierarchy of need into a sailboat. And again, I'm not going to go deep into describing this image, but basically is a sailboat with the boat portion having 3 layers of development that creates a level of security and safety in a person's life. And then the sail of the sailboat, it also has 3 levels of development. And the sail kind of represents growth and movement and progress in life. And so the idea being, you have to kind of have your boat shored up before you can go off exploring. And if you just keep getting your boat shored up, you're never going to go exploring. You got to go into the growth area. And so what I'll do is I'll spend an easy 5 minutes just drawing the sailboat, labeling the different aspects, and kind of describing it. Not going into a huge training piece, just quickly describing it. And then I'll share that with them and maybe slide the piece of paper toward them. Or if I'm coaching on Zoom, I'll show the image. I'll just say, so what's this bring up for you? Where are you in this development process? And it basically is giving them kind of 2 broad categories to focus on, which would be kind of the security or the growth, and then a more nuanced 6 categories to look at. Either the 3 categories related to the boat or the 3 categories related to the sail. So it's a way to find focus. And again, as coaches, you want lots of these kinds of tools. You want to develop your own tools because very often clients are going to come into a coaching conversation. They're not going to have a focus. And you can either send them home and say, come back when you have a focus, which is somewhat legit, or you can be ready to create and evoke awareness about the topic that they need to be coached on or that they want to be coached on. So don't feel like there's somehow failures or you're a failure if your client doesn't have a topic, but instead just know that that's part of your role as a coach, is helping evoke that kind of awareness of what's a coachable topic for this client. So use these 4 tools, create your own, and have a great time coaching.
Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss any of our great content.